So now we are going to move on, and we've talked about our atoms, we've talked about our molecules, we've talked about how they're organized. Now we're actually going to get into how we can describe different substances. Okay? And we're going to talk about physical and chemical properties. Now, when we talk about physical and chemical properties, we're also going to talk a little bit about physical and chemical change and what happens there. But to start it off, let's talk a little bit about what that means. Now, when I work with the students, one of the things that I like to do is I like to talk, when I talk about physical properties are things that you can use your senses to describe. So for example, I have this plate. Okay? This plate, if I wanted to describe this plate, I can say, well, the plate is light. You know, I can measure it and figure out how the weight of this plate. I could say it's white. I could say it's smooth on part of it, bumpy on another part. Okay? These are all physical properties. I like to work with them and try to get them to expand that. So one of the examples I'll do is they have something and they have to describe it to the person next to them without using what it is, you know, or pretend that the person doesn't know what it is. So for example, you know, I'm describing to you, you know, a washer. And so I might say, okay, the washer is silver. It has a hole in the middle. It's very thin. It's kind of heavy for its size. I might give you all these descriptions. And those are the physical properties. Chemical properties, on the other hand, are what happens as chemicals react or don't react with each other. What happens when we put two things together? Do they change? Do they not change? Those are our chemical properties. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a little test using some household items to check for chemical properties. Now there is a handout, this one right here. It's called Mystery Liquids. And my mystery liquids, what I'm doing is I have 5 different powders we're going to test. And around the room, I have put them out. I have labeled them like this. So chemical powder 1, powder 2, powder 3, so forth. I have 5 powders. They're all around the room. They should be around your rooms as well. What we're going to do is we're going to have the students in just a minute go around, and they are going to collect a sample of each of these 5 powders. Now, if you want to have your students work by themselves, that's fine. If you want to have them work in groups, that's a little bit better sometimes, just because now they're having to collaborate. They're having to talk about what they're doing. And if you look at our chart, what we're going to do is for each of the mystery powders, we're going to do some tests with them. First of all, we're going to describe its physical property. Okay? Physical property being, what does it look like? We don't want them to taste it. You can have them smell it, but really make sure that if they're smelling it, you know, kind of do the waft test. None of these are going to have that, you know, strong of an odor, so don't worry about that. But what does it look like? If you want to, you can have them touch it. Just kind of set up chemistry lab standards for safety. That, you know, we don't eat anything, we don't touch things unless we're given permission to. You know, not to play around with different things. If you want to have your students wear goggles, that's fine. For your information, well, actually, I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, because you're going to have to see if you can figure out what they are. So they're going to do physical property. They're also going to see if it has a reaction with water. They're going to test all 5 with water. Then they're going to test all 5 with vinegar. And then finally, they're going to make a guess to see if they can guess what this powder is. And what do you think it is? And then also, what is it? So we're going to kind of fill in that chart as we go. They're going to collect the data. Now, the way that they can put these on their chart is you can do a couple different ways. One is you can use a styrofoam plate like this. Don't use a paper plate because you're going to be putting water on it. But you have these styrofoam plates. You can make a little star. I can't draw a star upside down, so pretend that's a nice little star. And then we're going to label the points of the star. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and they can put a little dollop of powder in each one of those little spots. If you want, there's another type of tray, depending on what you have. This one you can just kind of divide it into squares, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're going to put a little dollop of each powder in one of those spots. So what I want you to do now is you are going to go ahead and go around the room, get all 5 powders, put them on there, and then when you get back to your seat, then I'm going to go about what we need to do to test those liquids, those powders, I'm sorry, using our water and our vinegar. So go ahead and do that, and I'll give you a few minutes, and then when we're all back, we will do our testing. So go ahead. If you cover up your numbers, just remember which was number 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we have our powders now. We're going to test with vinegar and with water. First, we're going to test with water. It doesn't really matter which one you test with. And what we're going to do is we're going to use straws as our dropper. Some people like to do, kind of put your finger over the top of it. But the problem is, you let it all go at one time. Here's kind of a neat idea. If you take your straw, fold it over like that, now you can squeeze it like that, and it makes a nice little dropper. And you can drop by drop. So it makes it a little bit easier. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look for some sort of chemical change. Okay? Does it fizz? Does it bubble? Does it do, is it changing somehow? And then we're going to write that in with a reaction with vinegar. Okay? Or we can just say, does it, yes, here's what it does. No, it didn't do anything. So we're going to do it once with water, and then once with vinegar. And you can do on the same lump, just kind of, if you can divide it up a little bit, do the powders on one side, water on one side of the powder and vinegar on the other side of the powder, and that will work out. So what I want you to do is I'm going to give you a few minutes. We're going to go through, you're going to test it with water, you're going to test it with vinegar, fill in these charts, make your guesses, and then after a few minutes, we'll go through and we'll review and see what we found out. Go ahead and start now.
So reaction with water.
Nothing.
Seep done.
Number 2, did you get a hole in yours when you did number 2?
No, it rolled off and it made that little puddle.
Oh, well mine didn't. Mine made like a cavern. That's number 5 either. 3 and 5 are boring.
Really?
Ooh, number 1 bubbles.
I'm going to give you about another minute or so, and then we're going to go through and make our predictions and find out. All right, we had time to do it. So, share with your partners some of the different things you have. Hopefully you've had time to test all of those things. And when you're done, you should end up with something like this. So here's what I filled out. So for mystery powder number 1, it's a white fine powder. Did it have a reaction with water? No. Did it have a reaction with vinegar? Yes. Well, my guess was chalk. What is it actually? In this case, it is baking soda. Okay? So we'll go through, and you can have the students read off all of those things. So here's what the answers are. So number 1, baking soda. Number 2, baking powder, flour, vanilla pudding, and cornstarch. So we're able to have those all together. So it's kind of a nice way to do it. It's a safe way to do it. All these things are cooking things. They're things that we have around our house. It makes it really, really easy to actually test some of these things. So we're actually able to kind of do some chemical properties, some physical properties, and have them do a little bit of kitchen chemistry, which we're going to do in just a minute some more of.